Hello and welcome to the Bose Knows. I'm your host, Mr. Bose, and welcome to episode 1. I am joined by two very special guests on our first episode. We have our principal, Mr. Theobold, and our assistant principal, Miss Thornton. So every podcast is going to start out with 3 questions. So for each of you, and you can arm wrestle for who's going to answer this one first, is your favorite subject or topic in school, and you can choose to answer that as when you were a student or when you were a teacher. What was your favorite subject or topic to teach?
Ladies first, Miss Thornton, go ahead.
I'm kind of torn on the favorite subject. I would have to say ELA, or English is what they called it back then. That would be my top choice, along with band, because I learned a lot about music. I learned about how to read music, how to play an instrument. I loved the English side of things, though, because it was literature and stories and poetry and lots of the arts, I guess, is something I definitely took interest in.
So as a student, I was drawn to teachers. So if I really enjoyed the teacher, I typically enjoyed the class and the subject material. So that kind of led to me enjoying English in high school, Latin when I took it as well. But then as far as a curriculum or area of study, social studies, I was a social studies teacher before I became a principal. And yeah, I just love history and geography and anthropology and thinking about the world in the past and how it affects our world in the present.
Very cool. So actually, it leads into the second question. That is, if you could have coffee with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Go ahead, Mr. Theobald.
Oh, goodness. Well, just off the hip, let's see. I think I would be fascinated to have coffee with Mark Twain. I think he would be an entertaining person to sit with, certainly very humorous, but also very knowledgeable. He could kind of give me some insights into the way the world worked at his time, and kind of give some insights on just how he understood the world to be at a time where I very specifically have spent quite a bit of time in my own life trying to understand our country's history in the middle of the 19th century, around the time of the Civil War, and immediately before and after it. So I think he'd be a fascinating character. I can't stall anymore there, Miss Thornton. You're just going to have to jump right out there and say it. Who are you going to have coffee with?
All right, so we're going to come back to that one. We're not going to let Miss Thornton off the hook, though. Next one, since this is QI Roberts, of course, the other question that I'm going to ask everybody is quality, integrity, respect. Which one and why?
Oh, for me, it's going to definitely be integrity. I think that without integrity, the rest of it kind of starts falling down. Without integrity, there is no respect. And without integrity, you might show me quality, but I can't be guaranteed that it's your quality. So I think integrity is the most important of our values here at our school. And I look forward to seeing more examples of it in the future from our students and our faculty and staff, everybody involved with the school.
And for me, I honestly lean toward the respect quality. I feel like just the opposite of Mr. Theobald. I feel like respect for self leads to integrity. Respect for others pulls in all of those other components as well. And it's critical to have that if you're going to work with people, work with other students, work with staff members. There has to be a mutual level of respect.
Very good. It's off to a great start here. So the first question that I have specific to the two of you is kind of, what's your story? Because not all of the students or even some of the parents here at QI know your history and your story. So,
well, my history started, as far as education goes, started when I was a little girl. I wanted to be a teacher. That's literally all I ever wanted to be. I loved the music side of things and the thought of even teaching music, but I know those jobs are very difficult to obtain. I started working in church with kids and decided I loved the elementary age originally. And from there, moved into teaching elementary school for 9 or 10 years, and then moved into administration. So currently, this is my 27th year of teaching, and I don't think there's ever been a year that I haven't absolutely loved what I do.
So, like Miss Thornton, I would agree. I've wanted to be in education all my life. My parents were both educators. My grandparents worked closely with children as well. What led me to QI Roberts years and years ago, I went to Florida State, got my degree in education. I taught social studies in Atlanta, and then moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, where I also taught for a couple of years social studies. And then I decided when I got married and wanted to start a family, we moved back home. QI Roberts was just being built, and so they were hiring teachers, and I got a job here back in 2003. So I was here as a teacher, as the assistant principal for years, and then after spending, 10 years away, I came back to QI as the principal, and I'm happy to be here, glad to be here. We do amazing things, and it really is kind of a dream come true to work in an educational facility like QI Roberts and what has been built here.
So we could say that the school was built around you?
Well, there are stories. There are stories to be told. I grew up very close friends with one of the Roberts boys. So I have actually been on this campus and this property most of my life, in one way or another, whether we were out camping or hanging out in the woods or here as an educator. So it's been a long time. Yes, I'm very familiar with Highway 100 and the trip out here.
So, Mr. Theobold, you kind of alluded to my next question a little bit. I want to talk about what QI is to each of you. And Mr. Theobold, I know you have kind of a personal stake in what QI is right now, but kind of, take whichever direction you want to go or answer both in terms of what QI is personally or professionally.
So personally and professionally, this is it's just an amazing place. Having grown up in Putnam County, and I know Miss Thornton did as well, we've always known the challenges that have faced our community, not just with education, but with the economy and just all the challenges you face in a poor rural southern community. And out here on this tree farm, we have created a place that is a top 10% high school in the state of Florida, and we are within touching distance of the top 10 list. And all the other schools on that list are in very wealthy neighborhoods in Miami and Broward County and Collier County. And to do that here in Putnam County, where we're still, in this community, we're still part of Putnam County, and our students come from all different ranges of background. But the thing that I've always known and always believed is that we can compete with anybody, intellectually and academically. And this has just shown everybody that we can do that. And I'm just, like I said, it's the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of an educational career devoted to doing the absolute best you can do academically.
And QI for me, it gives a level playing field really for all students. It gives an opportunity for those kids who may not have had a laser focus on them, the opportunity to be at a place that is giving them a laser focus, meeting their needs where they are academically, as well as socially and emotionally. It's a school with amazing educators who are constantly striving to be even better, and they kind of push that down to their kids so that everybody's working toward the common goal of being better than they were yesterday. And that's just kind of a beautiful place to come to work every day.
And I want to add on to what Ms. Thornton's alluding to. At every other school in kind of our entire region, they have to have a different focus because of school grades and because of requirements from the state and from the federal government. You have to perform better with your students who are on the lower end of academic performance, just to meet your requirements. But out here, because of what we have as far as the application process and attracting the top students throughout the community, we're allowing the faculty and staff here to focus on those students who at other schools may just they will not be the top priority because that's not what's going to be reported out at the end of the day to the state. And so out here we do have this opportunity to focus on students that may not be the entire focus of other schools. And it's a great blessing to those students who are able to come out here and those of us who get to work with them.
Very good. And I think for the listeners, something that if you listen closely to what they both said, it kind of comes across, and this is my segue into my next question, is that QI isn't necessarily or doesn't have to be the best of the best academically. They both alluded to hard work and students that just need a little extra focus. So keep that in mind. As that leads me to my next question for both of you is, QI has always been a unique entity out here on the tree farm. So it comes with some misconceptions, both for the community and for the students that attend here at QI. What do you think is an important misconception that people have?
The number one misconception I think is that it's an absolute elite program. It comes as a surprise even to people who work in our school district that our requirements as far as when we get applications from students, we look at FSA scores from elementary school, and what we're looking for are students who've passed the reading at a level 3 and hopefully the math at a level 3. Level 3 is barely on grade level according to the state. Level 3 indicates that a student will need some supports when they go into the next grade level. They have not mastered everything in their current grade, and so we aren't looking for students who are at the absolute top of the scale and so exclusive in that sense. Realistically, what we're looking for are students who are meeting the requirements of the state, and so by meeting those requirements of the state, the minimal requirements of the state in 5th grade, 6th grade, you can come out to QI Roberts and you will be successful if you're ready to put in the effort that is required here. And it's not a profound amount of effort. What we see is typically 80 to 90% of our students matriculate from 7th all the way through 12th grade. And that tells you that if you come with a minimal requirement from the state and come out here with the determination to get the job done, that you will be successful at our school.
And to piggyback that, of course, he said a lot of words that I was really ready to talk about, Mr. Theobold. But to piggyback that, we've heard from a lot of 7th grade families, particularly because they're new to this process, that they're fearful of all of the work and all of the extra assignments and all of the hours that students are going to have to spend on accomplishing all of the things necessary to be successful at QI. And that's definitely not necessarily the case. It's a different way of thinking, and it's a different way of holding them accountable for things. But I wouldn't necessarily say that there's an impossible amount of work for the students to do every night. We're just asking them to do the basic things and to do them consistently and with integrity.
Yeah, very good. So, Ms. Thornton, I'll let you take this one first, since Mr. Theobold keeps stealing your thunder here. Talking about our 7th grade students and kind of expanding that to just new students to QI in general, whether they're 7th grade or somewhere else, what advice do you have or recommendations do you have for students new to QI?
I honestly feel like just coming with an open mind and an open heart for whatever they encounter in their classrooms, realizing that each teacher is different, each set of students that they're going to be in classrooms with is going to be different, but that the opportunities here are vast and widespread. There are a lot of clubs they can be a part of. There are a lot of groups they can be a part of. We have power hour structure where students can actually go and get supports that they need, and that's a little different from traditional high schools. It's more like a college campus, so it really does lend itself to that kind of design where they're not going to be alone. They're not going to feel like they're on an island all by themselves as long as they don't put themselves on said island.
Ms. Theobold, do you have?
Yeah, well, and I would say as a new student here, the first thing to bear in mind is that you may be challenged more than you've ever been challenged before. And that's kind of what the expectation is. And it's not a challenge of we're going to bury you under piles and piles of work. It's going to be the challenge of we're going to require you to think. And there are going to be other students in your class that are going to require you to think. And staying on top of the assignments is certainly a part of it, but more importantly, just being prepared to have to put in some work intellectually in the classroom. It may be a new experience for a lot of our students. We're just, they're very bright and very ready to perform in class. And so just be ready for that it might be a little bit different from what you're used to as far as the expectation and also as far as the peer encounters that you have.
Very good. So would that advice, so the next question is for students that are already here, do you have different advice for them, or does it follow the same vein?
I think the biggest advice I would have for students who are currently here would be to take advantage of the resources. Many times I think they become a little complacent because we're a small school. They get used to the size, the people, and oftentimes they miss the opportunity to seek out the resources that are available to them. So I would suggest to them to talk to their teachers. One of the pieces of our mission is that students will be mutually accountable, meaning that they're going to go to their teachers for the things that they need and have the expectation that their teachers are going to give them those supports. So just keeping an open mind and realizing that there are resources available if they'll just seek them out and take advantage of them.
And I'd add that I think that all of those things are exactly right as far as how to be successful here. The mindset shift that I also hope that our current students are already embracing, and if they haven't, then will embrace soon, is the idea that you have to challenge yourself. You have to push yourself to that next step in order to be successful, as successful in life as you'd like to be.
Awesome. So now, get in a time machine here. If you were a student at QI and you were starting school here in about a week, what would you get involved in? What would you be looking forward to?
So I know as a student, if I were a 7th grade student coming out here next week, one of the first things that I would be interested in, or would have been interested in at that time, is Mr. Rothschild's intramural sports program. I was very involved with athletics growing up. I'm a pretty kinetic person. I like to be moving and doing things. And so the idea that during the school day, I would be able to play sports at school on a team in a competitive league, I'd be excited about doing that. So I think that would be my first choice. How about you, Ms. Thornton?
So I would have definitely been nervous, like most of our kids are coming in. But if I was a 7th grader, I would have already acclimated to our school to some degree because I would have been at band camp, which Mr. D ran for several weeks in a row. The color guard, of course, as well. But I would have already been out here doing that, kind of meeting students and getting a layout of the school, getting a feel for the culture. And I would have been less nervous at this point because I would have already had some field time, so to speak, in it. And I think, going back to what you had asked originally, I think that is also a misconception, is that we don't have the typical high school experience. I think every year we're adding to what we do to the point that kids really are getting that traditional high school experience out here at QI.
So for everybody listening, I got 2 more questions for our guests today, but talking about what to get involved in, the next couple episodes of this podcast are going to be interviews with the leadership of the different clubs on campus. So if you're not sure what club you want to be a part of, stay tuned for the future episodes of the podcast to see which of our many clubs and organizations on campus you may want to be a part of. So going into that high school experience, what's your favorite QI tradition?
Oh, I would have to say the activities that our student government plans for both the week leading up to winter break and the activities that they do for Spirit Week. I love the student government-led activities because the students are super involved. There's a lot of dressing up each day to show school spirit, and it's just a time when everybody comes together to kind of celebrate our school. It's really neat.
So I'm going to agree completely. The pep rallies and Spirit Week in the fall before homecoming, the student versus teacher games that we have. Of course, I enjoy those. And we put on good parties, good dances, different things that students can be involved in, and they seem to enjoy. They're really high quality, and everybody seems to have a great time doing it. So that's what I'd be excited about.
Very cool. So for those of you new to QI, there's a little preview of what's coming up this year. And so the last question is a recommendation question. So what is a book you've read, a TV show, podcast, anything that you would recommend to those students listening?
Okay, gosh, right off the cuff, let's see, book recommendations. They're a little tough. My favorite ever nonfiction book is Guns, Germs, and Steel, which is just a fascinating book by an anthropologist, and it's quite a thick and heavy read. My favorite work of fiction is really nerdy. It's a series called the Warlord series by author by the name of Cromwell, and it's like a historical fiction built around the Arthurian legends. So I mean, it is totally nerdy, but I completely enjoy it. And then as far as a podcast recommendation, oh gosh, there's so many of them. So whatever you find fascinating, I'd say go for it. If you're interested in something, you've probably already found a podcast for yourself.
One of the books that I read last year that students actually read was called Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I would highly recommend that book for those of you, even if you are one of those kids who doesn't necessarily love reading, that particular book will hold your interest, and you'll be to the end of it before you know it, wishing that there were more pages.
I can recommend that one as a great audiobook as well. So if you are like myself, where sometimes a book puts you to sleep, but you can listen to an audiobook for hours, it's a great audiobook listen as well. So thank you for listening. Hang on for 1 second because I told Miss Thornton I wouldn't let her off the hook. So we got to come back to your coffee.
So if I had to really think about that. So if I had to pick one person, I would probably, the teacher piece of me would want to meet Anne Sullivan, who obviously, taught Helen Keller. I would want to meet with her and talk to her about everything she encountered and how Helen, who had all of the obstacles she faced, how she triumphed over those, and what she did as a teacher to help Helen get past those pieces. I think that would be really insightful for me to see from the lens of the student and the lens of the teacher, to know how we could help our students persevere when they come into situations where they struggle and feel like they are not going to make any headway in a certain situation.
Very cool. So thank you both for joining us on episode 1 of the podcast. For those of you listening, hopefully you got something out of this, or at least were entertained by it, and stay tuned for future episodes. I am looking for some intro and outro music, so if that is something that you have a talent in and want to submit something, feel free to send it my way.